Hello! This summer I had a really fun idea to do a Jasmine and Rapunzel mashup costume. I bought the fabric and I made a mock-up and I dyed the fabric and got really distracted. So now it's the middle of winter and Emmy and I spent the morning doing winter activities, including ski joring with Emmy and getting an Alaskan flat tire with Emmy and using my Chrysler SnowRunner. So that was super fun. And now I'm actually gonna get started on this project 7 months later. Now I will admit that I didn't do a good job dyeing this fabric, so I have to carefully cut around the splotches. Hello, Assistant Emmy. This is my pants pattern, not a skirt, and I was going for really poofy pants, so it's almost a third of a circle, but they will be gathered at the ankles. Also, I'm using the American definition of pants here. Due to certain dyeing mishaps, I have to piece together one of the pant legs. I think it'll be fine though. I think I'm going to do a tiny fake seam on the other one though, just so it looks even. I pinned my bodice pieces on the bias so that they would stretch a bit, and wow, do these bodice pieces look really strange, but this is just the purple parts. The cups are made from 3 bands instead of 2 triangles and the band shape that I'm used to, but since I am building this on a real bra, I made my pattern on the exact bra. These are also cut on the bias to help it curve. I cut the nude pieces on the bias too, adding seam allowances as needed. I drew alignment marks on the pattern before cutting it apart, so I copied them onto the fabric. My disappearing ink markers also disappear from time to time, so now I have 4 of them. My unassistant being unhelpful. I pinned the purple and the nude pieces together and pretend that I ironed them first. I wasn't in an ironing mood. I was in a skiing mood, but alas, I had to be productive. It's not really a dog bed, you know. I sewed the nude and the purple bodice pieces together. This looks really pink on camera, but it's more purple in real life. The next day I did feel like ironing, which was good because it really needed it. It's back to work on this costume today, and we had a big snowstorm last night and we actually lost power, so you may be able to hear our awesome new generator running in the background, but that means I can still sew. I have 2 different options for lining. Well, for a fun lining, because I like doing fun linings. I forgot to interface these before I sewed them together, so I'm just going to trim the seam and then interface this, and if anything weird happens at the seam, it's going to be covered by trim anyway, so it should be fine. I went with a pink Rapunzel lining, and I used my fashion fabric pieces to cut out the lining pieces since I chopped up my original pattern. You're standing on my interfacing. I ironed the interfacing according to the instructions except for the part where you're supposed to do it before, but it worked out just fine. I pinned the bodice pieces together, except for not the front side seam, until after the center front seam is sewn because it all comes to a point there. I pinned the side, front, and 1 back piece together. This is an odd shape to me because usually there are 2 back pieces and 1 center front piece with no center seam. And actually studying the costume, the nude pieces for the side, front, and back are 1 piece, but since I am not copying exactly, then I get to do what I want. I pinned the lining in the same way, and just to keep it exciting, there's 1/2 inch of seam allowance on the body and a different 1/4 inch seam allowance on the cups. But what can I say? I like a challenge. Just look at that pattern matching! Oh my gosh. That's like perfect. That's a little less perfect. That is also perfect. Excuse me. But it's all gonna get covered up with trim anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I also needed to cut the pants out of the organza overlay, which didn't suffer as badly in the dyeing fiasco. I added 1/2 inch to the pant leg side seams so I can do a French seam. And wow, does this pattern look like a skirt. I added clips to the front so later I can tell which side is which. I wanted a reference for how many peacock feathers are on the pants, and this is a gorgeous book. There seem to be 4 per pant leg, 2 front and 2 back. I'm having some disappearing ink problems, like it's disappearing before it touches the fabric. The heat erase friction pens are working better, but the ink does come back in the cold. I'm going to put Rapunzel's sunflower symbol here, instead of the peacock feather. I have 2 yards of this mood satin, and I'm going to try to heat and bond that on there. I ironed the soft heat and bond to the wrong side of the yellow fabric. Last time I tried to use my Cricut's rotary blade, it just said the tool wasn't there, but this time it found it just fine. Cricuts are very handy crafting tools, but if you're looking to buy one, you should know that this footage is sped up. Or maybe the Maker 3 is faster than my Maker 2. I only had enough to do 5 suns today, so 1 1/4 pant leg. I almost did this with glitter heat transfer vinyl, but that can be very stiff, and I wanted this to be flexible, but that would have made this step a whole lot easier because it comes on a transfer sheet, but I positioned them all by hand and removed the backing paper. And hit them with a hot iron. Or I tried. Oh no. What? Oh. It might help if I had plugged it in. After remedying that and letting it heat up, I actually ironed them down. Because this is sheer fabric, some of the adhesive went through to my scrap fabric, but I lifted it off while it was still soft and warm. Now I just have to do that 5 more times today, and then a whole bunch more when I have more of the heat and bond. Okay, I have one pant leg done. The other one is gonna have to wait until I get the new adhesive. I ironed both of the skirt panels, and I have done so much ironing today, and I'm really thinking maybe I should invest in like an adult-sized ironing board instead of my little tiny tabletop one. Oh, I'm exhausted. And I'm thinking I may go for another scoot this afternoon. I trimmed the cups a little bit and pinned them in place. This is actually going to turn out to be a really helpful lesson because I am currently working on my wedding corset, which also has cups in it, so this is really good practice for that. I carefully stitched this since it was very easy to get puckers on the sharper curves like this. That was pretty good. I only had one pucker and it was on the lining, so I didn't bother fixing it. And then it was time to cut out the shoulder strap. Jasmine's strap has a shoulder seam, but I thought it would be easier to cut it just as one piece. So I cut 4 of these and sewed 2 together, making 1 left and 1 right piece. I clipped the curves, turned it right side out, and ironed it flat. I pinned the straps to the outside of the bodice and sandwiched them in with the lining. Strap sandwich. Very plasticky. Knocked my headphones off. With my headphones back on, I sewed along the top edge. I also clipped, flipped, and ironed this edge. For boning, I'm going to try this sew-through boning. It was awful, and I will not be doing that again. I zigzag stitched it over the seam on the lining. And remember, I said not to do this. I really only needed the cups and the wires of the bra, so snip snip. I carefully hand-stitched the cups to the seam allowance without any accidents. Ow. I hear sewing goes a lot better if your machine is threaded. The second try is the charm for the seams in the back to the lining. I carefully stitched a channel for my preferred boning, matching the thread colors to the fabric. Very nice. This is my preferred synthetic whalebone boning, which I stuffed into the channels. I hand-stitched the lining to the outside on the bottom edge. I just had to put in the grommets for the bodice to be done and we could go for a romp in the woods. Hi, is there something I can help you with? It's not time yet. The bodice is done because I have other things I need to do now. Right, Emmy? Decoration bin! I wondered where that went. These are all the trims and ribbons I found to decorate this costume. I used this on my Ariel cosplay in green, which turned out lovely and just like seaweed, but this is gold for Rapunzel. I laid out a giant pant leg and positioned the gold leaf trim going from each sun to the waistband and pinned them all down. This was not as intricate as Jasmine's peacock feathers, so I added trim between each sun as well. Emmy, I need to pin that, and you've shifted it. I carefully stitched down the center of each ribbon, which was a painfully slow process. I mean, just look at this. Well, this is gonna take forever, so I will just let you skip ahead. Much better. For you at least, not for me. So I took a break to sew a new wooden bottom to the dog boat bed. On to pant leg number 2. I think I'm going to have to order more of this. I still have the whole cape and half a thing of pants, so. And then there was a terrible accident. My tea! My new spool arrived, so I quickly finished the second pant leg. Just kidding, it wasn't any faster. Today we are having a snowstorm! Emmy and I had a fun prance in the woods already, and now I'm gonna make some pants. I sewed the organza pant legs first with wrong sides together, trimmed down the seam allowance, then right sides together for a French seam. The opaque satin just got a right sides together seam and serge for finishing. I did iron these just off camera because it's boring. I assembled each pant leg, which frankly each could have been a skirt, by putting the satin inside the organza and carefully pinning it in place. I also pinned the bottom where the cuff will go. I flawlessly basted the top seams with absolutely no problems at all. No! Nothing to see here, move along. Flawless. I ran a gathering stitch along the bottom edge, which is the same long straight stitch that I used for basting. Look at the snow come down! Elsa, are you out there? I pinned the crotch seam on both pant legs together, and I just barely remembered to leave the back open for the zipper. The cuffs are made from 3" by 24-ish inch long strips. I marked quarter marks on the pants and the cuff and matched up these points and gently pulled on one side of the gathering stitch. I adjusted the gathers to be neat and pinned them down. I folded the cuffs so that all the raw edges would be on the inside. That'll teach me to leave my fabric on the floor. You good girl, Emmy? She wants to go back out in the snow now. It's not time yet. You're gonna have to wait a bit longer. I hand-stitched this down, leaving a few inches to insert the elastic. There are fancy tools for doing this, but I don't have any, so we're doing the safety pin method. Okay, they're pants. What do you think, Emmy? They don't have a waistband yet, and there's no zipper in the back, but we have a lot of fresh snow that needs to be played in, so this will have to wait. Uh-oh. We only ended up getting 8 inches of snow, which was half of what was predicted, which I'm kind of bummed about because I really like snow. But today it's super sunny and I'm gonna finish the pants. I cut a waistband that was 4 inches by longer than it needed to be and pinned it to the top of the pants. This isn't accurate to the Aladdin movie, but again, that was turquoise and I'm in charge here. Well, I forgot to film it, but the invisible zipper is in. I turned the raw edge over and pinned it to the seam allowance. I did a little whip stitch on the inside because it was easy and it won't be seen. Look at that pouting face. Pants! Oh, excuse me. Pants! They're done! They're great! So I guess I'm on to the cape next. Or I could decorate the bodice. So it has actually been 8 months since I've touched this project at all. I have a really good excuse though, because I was making my wedding dresses, of which there are 3. So I'm gonna start working on this again. I am getting ready to cut the cape, and I want it to be more than just a half a circle, so I am going to cut a half a circle out of this, and then add another pie wedge for the middle over there. And then I think I'll be out of fabric. I grabbed pattern weights and cut the arc that started around 53 inches and ended around 34 inches. I wanted it not touching the floor at the back and not crazy long at my arms. Off camera, I split the half circle down the center so that I could add the wedge symmetrically in the center back. I ironed all 3 pieces since they had been in the bin for months. I added the wedge with French seams, which I am now an expert at. Go watch my wedding petticoat video to see why. And I have to say, I was super happy with how my wedding dresses came out. 2 were spectacular and 1 was very comfortable, and it is obvious which one that was. Today I'm trying to figure out A, the hem length on my cape, and B, how many of the sun symbols I want to put on it, because that would depend on how many there are on the original cape, but also this is my design, so maybe I want to do something a little bit different. Also, it's turned into a dog bed. There's a pin there marking the length of the arm area. This back piece needs to be an inch or 2 shorter, so I just need to taper it out so it's somewhat of a nice shape. I trimmed the dog pillow several times because I didn't want to take off too much at once. I don't care what Edna Mode says, I love capes. I made Emmy a pizza dog bed and she loves it. It's a good doggy. I hemmed the cape using the band roll technique, which I used in making my wedding dress skirt. Basically, you stitch around the band roll with some fibers removed, flip it over twice, and top stitch again. I remember this going smoother. I pulled out the band roll and boom! A narrowish hem. I did this around the whole cape hem, which led to some very satisfying band roll removal. Well, that was satisfying. So I watched the dance scene again, and there are 7 peacock feathers. There are 7 peacock feathers on her thing, but I think it would look better with 1 more sun, and it's my design. Just kidding, there's 2 more up here, so there are in fact 9.
Back to the Cricut to make more suns, except that I accidentally told it to do 12 instead of 9. So any ideas for what I should do with the 3 extra suns? I am open to suggestions. I laid out the cape so I can add the gold leaf, and someone's in the way again. I did film the making of the pizza dog bed, but I'm trying to get through all of my wedding videos first, and wow, is there a lot of footage. I had to stop my normal editing in the evenings to finish my dress on time, and I did finish with 4 whole days to spare, so that was a good call. Later I added 1 more gold vine on the top edge. But enjoy this slow-mo cape! Finally I got to deciding which trims to use to decorate the bodice, a year and a few months later. I tried out a lot of the trims that I bought and came up with a game plan. Although I'm gonna have to make something else that needs a lot of gold trim because I ordered way too much. So I'm gonna give you a nice montage, but just know that this was a solid week of hand sewing trim.
Okay, here's the deal. It is absolutely gorgeous outside, and I bought half a kayak a couple weeks ago, so I really want to go kayak. But first, I'm gonna finish this costume. There's really not much left to do though. All I have to do is sew the cape to the back of the bodice and some finger loops on the ends of the cape, and that should be it. So let's get going, because I really want to go outside.
I hand stitched the cape on just through the back of the straps because it's covered by the cape, so it won't show. I thrifted some matching rat tail cord a few weeks ago that I used for the fingertip loops. I also had yellow as well, but no gold. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe to see what I make next. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. Bye!